At least 17 high school students and teachers are dead, killed in the 18 school shootings so far this year. That's in just 45 days. Last night on Hearing the News, Donald Trump took a brief break from tweeting about what he says are the many dangers of illegal immigration and wrote, "My prayers and condolences to the families of the victims of the terrible Florida shooting. No child, teacher, or anyone else should ever feel unsafe in an American school." According to the New York Times' Maggie Haberman, Trump aides wanted him to say more last night, but he decided against it. Then this morning, he did address the country.
My fellow Americans, today I speak to a nation in grief. Today we mourn for all of those who lost their lives. We comfort the grieving and the wounded. And we hurt for the entire community of Parkland, Florida, that is now in shock and pain and searching for answers.
Searching for answers indeed, but for the purposes of tonight's discussion, I'm going to assume Congress will be just as irresponsible as they were after Las Vegas, the Sutherland Springs Church, the Pulse nightclub shooting, Sandy Hook, and far too many others. There'll be no hearings, no debate, no action. So while we wait for our legislative leaders to move past their thoughts and prayers, what can we do? We've since learned that the suspect, 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz, trained with a white nationalist group, according to its leader. He also commented on YouTube, "I'm going to be a professional school shooter," and a fellow YouTube user alerted the FBI about this back in September. It was one of two reports the FBI got about Cruz. The school had also expelled him, and the Miami Herald reported prior to that he was not allowed on campus with a backpack after bullets were found in one of his. And yet, we heard this from the superintendent.
We received no warning, no hints, no tips, and I can tell you that we continue to work with our student body, our faculty. Whenever you see something, say something.
The president tweeted a similar message this morning. So many signs that the Florida shooter was mentally disturbed. Must always report such instances to authorities again and again. So, were there missed signs? Joining me to discuss are Martha Tompson. She teaches psychology at the Boston University School of Medicine and Harvard Medical School, as well as Children's Hospital in Boston. Good to meet you. Thanks for being here. James Allen Fox, professor of criminology at Northeastern University, member of the USA Today Board of Contributors, and author of 18 books, including Violence and Security on Campus and The Will to Kill. James, it's good to see you, too. Every time I see you, the first question I ask is, were there warning signs that were missed? The answer is always no. But this time, there's the YouTube video that the FBI was told about. There was an email from the school, despite what the superintendent said, to all the teachers saying, watch out for this young man. His fellow students said, if we're ever going to be killed, he's the guy that's going to do it. Is this the rare case where there were warning signs that people missed?
Well, I don't want to make excuses because the ball was dropped by people, that's for sure. Absolutely. But the key is the word if. If this were to happen, this would be the guy. The if hardly ever happens. There is a large haystack of people out there who actually may look like this guy, talk like this guy, and lots of kids write ugly things on the internet.
There are lots of kids about whom school administrators send a letter to the whole faculty saying, don't let him in the school with a backpack?
Except this is an extreme case. But let's also understand that we now have the benefit of hindsight. Of course, and hindsight is 20/20.
Absolutely.
And there are other cases. I'm not saying there's a slew of them. There are other cases like that, and nothing ever happens. The good news is that we've seen a lot of averted cases of school shootings. Now that everyone is aware, the biggest prevention is indeed telling someone. We had a case in Dartmouth, Massachusetts, similar like that. We've seen more and more cases of school shootings that were averted. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they would have happened, because sometimes kids talk like they're big shots, but actually don't take shots.
Martha, could this have been prevented? You seem to be nodding in agreement with James over here.
I think one of the things that I see is that Trump has referred to the mental health issue. And I think that's a crucial kind of thing. And could we identify kids who are having these problems? I mean, I do think some things were missed here. This is a young man who had a gun, this gun at home, and the people he was living with were aware of that.
So said they locked him in the cabinet, but he had a key to that cabinet.
So he has a key to the locked cabinet. It's hard to see how
So if the signs were there, we all agree there were signs. The question is, should anybody in power have done something or could have done something that could have prevented Cruz from killing 17 people?
Well, I mean, in dealing with kids who have mental health problems, one of the first things I would be doing with parents and those who are responsible is identifying whether the kid had access to a firearm.
His parents were both dead.
Absolutely.
But he was
living with another family who was aware that he had
this.
But
the question is to the extent to which they were invested in him.
Can we talk, you mentioned what the president said. Here is exactly what the president said this morning on the topic that Martha mentioned. Here it is.
We are committed to working with state and local leaders to help secure our schools and tackle the difficult issue of mental health.
Now, I mean, he's not serious about this, obviously. He's proposed cutting Medicaid, proposed cutting Medicare. One of his first acts was the repeal on Obama regulation that would have required people on Social Security with mental health issues to be added to the national database. Putting aside the president's being genuine or disingenuous here, is there something that could be done on the mental health front?
Sure.
For the Nicholas Cruzes of the world?
Well, that's the difference. You see, if we want to talk about increasing access to mental health treatment, that's a good thing to do, but not for this reason. Why don't we talk about that 3 weeks from now, not in the aftermath of a shooting? Because what this does is it confuses mental health or mental illness and mass murder.
And you're worried that it stigmatizes people because a huge swath of
does.
people have mental health issues.
See, why are we doing this? Is it because we're concerned about the well-being of the mentally ill, or is it because we're concerned about the well-being of the people that they may shoot? It's the latter. So.
Well, when you say we, though, I think it really depends because, this is one of the few issues, mental health issues, that probably every family watching tonight has a relative, has a kid, has a next-door neighbor whom they love, who's got a mental health issue.
We know that 1 in 5 teens approximately is going to have a problem with depression by the time they get through their teen years.
Do you know who Dave Cullen is? Wrote a book called Columbine.
Yeah.
Last night he was on Anderson Cooper, and when he was asked the same question I'm about to ask you, what's a simple, affordable thing we could do without missing a beat? He said, teen depression screening. He said it's cheap, it's affordable, and it works, and a huge percentage of these kids who do this do suffer from depression. Is he right, James?
It's a significant issue. The question is how you can't coerce a kid into treatment. You can't make him take medication.
You can make it available, can't you?
You can make it available. But the thing is, those who truly want to punish other people, who want revenge, who blame others for their problems, they don't think there's a reason that they need treatment. They think the problem is the rest of the world, those that are going to go targeting. The people who said, oh, yes, I really feel depressed, I could use that, they're not dangerous people.
So the people who get screening
Except
are the
maybe
people who probably don't need the screening.
Actually,
and those
I would argue they need the screening. They may not need it for this reason, but they need it for a variety of reasons. And much more commonly, we see teen suicide. The thing that I worry about with a gun in the home, I've seen many teens. I've seen many suicidal teens. I have very rarely seen a teen who's homicidal. This is not something we see as often. It's hard to predict it because it's a very low base rate event. So statistically, it's hard to predict.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just think that, absolutely we need better mental health treatment in our country. Absolutely. And we need to deal with the epidemic of teen depression. But I think, again, I agree with you. That's a separate.
Understood.
Yeah,
but often it's got to be a flashpoint like this that gets people focused, even if it should be normal times, not aberrational times. We talk about the media for a second.
Sure.
Anderson Cooper on CNN will not mention the name of a shooter, will not show the photograph of a shooter. Some thinks it's a gimmick. Some think it actually helps because it encourages raising the profile of a mass killer like this Cruz kid encourages the next Cruz. Where are you on this issue?
I think mention the name is a relatively small issue. The big issue is when we hear through the media everything about them. Like, let's take the Las Vegas case because we had a lot of information.
Celebrity.
We knew about what casino games he liked karaoke, what his previous wives, his girlfriend. We knew more about him than our next-door neighbor. It went from news reporting to celebrity watch. It's not the fact that we should mention the name or not. And the other problem is we always want to put this in huge proportions. Oh, this is the biggest school shooting since Sandy Hook. Why do we have to talk about that? Would it be any less severe if it wasn't? There's this idea about records, biggest, the worst, and we constantly are hearing for it.
Well, we have a president who has actually fostered that thing in the American.
Absolutely. The biggest, the best.
One more thing about the media I am a believer. I believe we should have public executions. If people believe in the death penalty, they should see in their name who's executed. Should we see these kids? There are many people who think that the 26 and 7-year-olds were killed in Sandy Hook, as grotesque as the scene would be, that would convince these pathetic members of Congress to do something as grotesque as the scene would be.
I don't think
Should we be doing that?
I don't think so.
Why not?
I mean,
you don't think it would cause action?
Is it not good enough to say these children have been slaughtered?
Well, obviously it's not good enough.
Well, I don't think that will be either. But I do think that could be tremendously traumatizing to their families, to other children in their communities. I think there's a lot of negative potential outcomes.
So for the last 30 seconds, you're the czarina, you're the czar of this issue. You can unilaterally do one thing other than legislation to help move the ball forward here. What's the one thing that America should be doing?
Well, I think we should fund mental health treatment. But I'm not sure that's going to change this issue. I think we should fund mental health treatment for a variety of issues that's going to improve our society and improve the health of our society.
Okay, that's one. How about you, James?
I'd like to see us focus on respect in schools, the way that not just the students treat each other, but the way students are treated by administration. I think the school climate needs a lot of work. So inside the school as well as outside the school. Let's not focus just on the rare event, because these are rare events. Let's focus on the everyday problems that our kids face. Let me just say this one statistic.
Please.
That's absolutely
more kids die every year because they have a swimming accident in a pool. They drowned. I mean, we need, for example, more lifeguards, not armed guards in schools. There's lots of things we can do to protect our children. Let's not turn our schools into fortresses, and let's not stigmatize all of our kids who are depressed.
Martha, thank you. It's good to meet you. Thanks so much. James, great to see you as always. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.